Hello and welcome. This is Jeff Gamble, Indianapolis, Indiana, and this is the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. Today we're actually going over law number 21. That is the law of legacy. So we're going to throw out some invites here, get the party started. Hopefully you guys are having a good day. Happy Thursday to everyone. Hope you guys are rocking. We will be ready to make it happen. If you're just joining us, please let us know where you're actually joining us from. That would be country, city, state. If that's possible. Lori's with us. Tom's with us. What's happening, sir? Happy Thursday. Michael's with us. Whoa, touched the wrong button. How is everyone? New people. So can you believe it? Another week's almost gone by. The end of August. It's actually kind of crazy. Becky's with us. Hello, hello. The Circle City. I know they say it's the Circle City because we have 465 and it goes around in a circle, but I wonder if it's also the Circle City because people never get out of here. They just end up circling back. Hopefully we'll be able to leave. Not permanently, just for a little bit. Well, guys, this is actually the second time we've actually been through this series. We're going to finish up today with the 21 laws. Tomorrow and Friday, we are going to go over something very cool. It's called the 5 levels of leadership. And then we're going to start back with this series in September. Can't believe I'm saying that. Bess is with us. Hello.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello, Jeff. Now I can hear you. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, we got some nice little surprises coming up the next 2 days. And as Jeff said, today is the final law number 21 of the 21 Irrefutable Laws, the Law of Legacy. So this kind of fits what we talked about the last couple days of thinking bigger than just ourselves, thinking way down the road, expanding our vision, and that makes me really grow as a person. So I'm excited about this law too. We are Bess McCarty of the MLM Millionaire Club School for Network Marketers and Shrink of MLM. And this is Jeffrey David Gamble of My Leadership Network, also a certified John Maxwell trainer. So that's why we can bring you these classes. Our purpose is to help people grow, to educate, equip, and empower entrepreneurs and create independent servant leaders. And of course, to raise the bar in this profession and give back. So we just love that you are here. And joining us is a real special time for us to be here and sit with you at noon. Thank you for all the likes and loves, you guys. We love you too. And we love that you're taking this and expanding yourself and going out to help people. So if you're watching the replay, we'd love if you type in replay and love to also hear where you're from. Grab pen and paper. It's bound to be you're bound to get one idea today that you can put into use, $1 million idea. So over to Jeff.
Hello. Kevin Max with us. How's everyone? Tony, what's going on? So what we're doing is going over law number 21, the law of legacy. It says leadership is the one thing you cannot delegate. You can't give this out. Just because you give it away and want somebody else to lead, you'd love for them to take it over. But it says you either exercise it or you advocate it. So leadership is usually taken, not given, meaning somebody grows to a point where they have the ability to run things, and then they're actually going to take it away from you. Those are some of the best people to keep in touch with, by the way. A lot of us think, okay, this guy's got it. You know, we can not actually be in contact with them anymore. And it's actually usually the exact opposite. You want to go where you're not needed, not necessarily where you're needed. If you're needed all the time, you've created dependency rather than leadership. So law number 21, the law of legacy. There's so many great people in the business. And of course, we're keeping this generic, you know, no names, no companies. But inside of the world of direct sales, there's so many people who have created legacies. There's so many companies who have created legacies of people. And what I really see that as is a leader that takes over, another leader that takes over, another leader that takes over, and so on and so forth, all the way down, where you have leadership stacked on top of leadership, where the organization will go on without you, regardless of your influence, regardless of what you're doing. You know, it'd be nice to say that no matter what you did, you couldn't get everybody out. I mean, wouldn't that be an interesting position to put your family in? Is you've built something so big, you've built something so strong, people are running for their dream because of what they want to do. That's so strong. Even if you tried to call everybody, you couldn't get them all out. You couldn't convince them all to go somewhere. That the income's going to keep going regardless. And I think that's maybe the main dream of a lot of people inside of direct sales. But I think too many people think it's going to happen by accident rather than by design. That's just what I've seen. Secret. No, sir, John, I'm not. But a leader's lasting value is measured by succession. A leader's lasting value is measured by the people he's trained or she's trained, and the people that actually are on their team that go on without them. You know, that I love this when you build a marketplace, you know, inside of direct sales, inside of network marketing, inside of MLM. I've had the fortune to build teams big enough where they're actually, first of all, attending events without you, attending in other cities. But what's really cool is when somebody starts an event without you, and runs a marketplace without you, and has the ability to build without you. That's where it gets kind of amazing. And that's, you know, when you're talking about a succession, somebody who can run things, somebody who can run an organization when you're not there, somebody who can lead a team when you're not there. It was a great feeling to have, to know that I had people at one point on my team that if a call came up and, you know, I couldn't do it, that there was somebody else there, not only to give a presentation, which is the first part, but the second part is to actually physically do the training. They knew how to introduce, they knew how to present, they knew how to train, they knew how to promote, they knew how to get people to events, they knew how to be first. You know, they knew a lot of these lessons because of the training that we taught. And there's so many great people in the industry that have this ability. And what you want to do is you want to find them inside of your company. And if they're not directly in your line, you want to befriend people in your company who have that ability, who have the ability to help out. So that way, you know, nothing more, you can learn from them as you build, and you can become that person. Joyce is with us. Hello. You can become that person. And that's really, you know, in the end, that's what you really want. 4 disciplines to develop your leadership legacy. Know the legacy you want to leave. You know, how do you want this to transfer? How do you want this to go on without you? You know, that's something that, you know, a leadership that I've worked with in the past, they would talk about, you know, when we're no longer here, here's what's going to happen. I know there's, you know, several icons in the business that have not only retired, but passed away. And it's amazing to see their leadership, you know, roll on without them. And they still, you know, I think one of the greatest things that you can leave behind is that legacy where people, you know, not only remember, you know, you, but actually will talk about you in a good light. You know, hey, if it wasn't for these people who started this, we wouldn't have seen this. If it wasn't for these people who started this, if it wasn't for the people who were out in the living rooms, you know, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for the pioneers in the industry, we wouldn't have the opportunity that we have today. And that's actually true throughout direct sales. You know, if there weren't some of the pioneering companies, if there weren't some of the pioneering people who went out into the living rooms and, you know, fought government and fought, you know, city government and state government and federal government to be able to make the opportunity available. A lot of people don't actually know this, but at one point, franchising was illegal. You know, McDonald's came under huge scrutiny by the federal government and the Federal Trade Commission that it was an illegal business entity. Illegal. You know, it was a pyramid scheme. McDonald's, you know, that it went through that scrutiny, and eventually they, you know, sat down and looked at, you know, what the good companies were doing franchising, and the bad companies, and they said, okay, we're going to line this out. This is how it has to work. And, you know, and McDonald's, and there were several others that became what we'd call the model to follow. And even in our industry, in direct sales, in the, you know, in the late 70s, you know, several companies came under fire. It still happens today. And there were several companies that fought to actually give us the legacy we have now, to say, hey, this is the business model. This is the numbers. It has to have a product or service to be able to, you know, be legitimate. It has to have a comp plan. You have to be able to get in without actually buying anything. I mean, there's all these different rules that the Federal Trade Commission came up to say, this is a legal business entity. This is how it has to operate. This is how it has to go. Now, are there still bad ones? Yes, of course. Daryl's with us, and, you know, several people just jumped on here. Chuck's with us, Rambo, Mark. So these are several different companies fought that fight to actually make this okay. Live the legacy you want to leave. So if you want certain things to transfer, you have to be doing them over and over and over again so much that actually the leadership, who you put in place, actually follows with that. You know, the dream being first. You know, you want to build a business full of people who dream, full of people who are growing to that next point. They said if you're not growing, my leadership and my mentor, one of my coaches, taught me, if you're not growing, you're dying. He's like, this is just like nature. In nature, if a tree is not growing, it's dying. If an animal's not growing, it's dying. There is no such thing as maintaining in life. You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. It's just the way it is. And the longer you stand still, the more it feels like death. And if you've ever built a direct sales business, that's true. You want to be moving to the next level. You want to be growing. There is no ceiling. There is no top. What a lot of people do is they hit a certain level and then they top out, and it's kind of like downhill from there. And what part of the problem is because if you don't have a continuous growth cycle, if you're not on what my mentor taught me, is if you're not in a stage of consistent growth, if you're not with a system that consistently pushes you outside of your comfort zone, you will do nothing but what your natural instinct is trained to do, which is keep you in that comfort zone. So I don't know if you know this, but we're all trained. If one of the reasons we always come back to where we are is because your body and your mind is actually physically trained to keep you in a comfort zone where everything maintains and stays the same, because that's the safety net. That's what the comfort zone is. In fact, if you move, one of the reasons this is, you know, put in our DNA so much, if you go to another city and sleep in another place, one of the reasons you never feel quite as rested somewhere else is because your brain actually does not turn off all the way, meaning it does not completely sleep when you move to a new city. Why is that? Because it still maintains that idea that we're outside, that this is unknown territory. You have to be somewhat awake to be able to get up and move, you know, for the threat of, you know, not making it, for somebody to come get you or something to come get you. So we still have all that primal stuff there. Because of that, and psychologists have figured this out, this is why certain people have built systems in. He said the only way you're going to consistently grow, the only way you're going to consistently set goals and move forward is if you have a system to push you outside of that comfort zone, which bypasses your natural human instinct to protect yourself. I was like, wow. But it totally made sense. And when you start tracking this and you start looking at what you're doing, I did this many times. I'd get excited, I'd go do more work, and then I'd hit a level, and then I'd come back. And each time I would kind of move slightly out of the comfort zone. But when I started using a system to push myself out of the comfort zone, everything changed. Everything changed. I was able not only to get out, but consistently move up. I do the same tracking system with my traditional business, my holistic massage Reiki business, as I do with my real estate business, as I do with the other things that I do. And Bess and I consistently are on the phone talking about what we can do with, you know, the MLM Millionaire Club, along with the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, what it takes to consistently grow outside of what we're doing. And that's about tracking. You know, we talked about doubling every single month. What does it take to double every single month? So that's number two. Number three is choose who will carry on your legacy. You know, when you leave it up to the group to decide, not always the best thing. You know, it's great to be able to pick that person. It's great to be able to transfer and have that, you know, hey, this is the person that has the ability to run things. This is a person that has the ability that shows all the signs. And I'm going to appoint them as the person who's able to take over and run things and take this, you know, to the next level, to take this on. And it may be a group of people. It doesn't have to be a single individual. Hey, this is the group of people that I'm going to take. This is the upper level leadership that will move this, you know, this group forward. Come to them for answers. Number 4, make sure you pass the baton. Make sure you pass the baton. It's really weird when companies lose leaders and the baton was not passed, because everybody looks around and is like, who's supposed to lead? I mean, you kind of have a title. This person's kind of work. That person has that. And it gets confusion. But I've seen leadership when they actually pass it on. John actually talks about this, not only in the 21 Laws of Leadership, but John talks about it inside of Intentional Living. When he decided to move on from the church, he was able to find the right people, the right board, the right person. And he actually said, guys, I'm stepping away to pursue this, but here is the person to follow. So what he did is you can't give all your influence to somebody, but he approved this person. He approved this person and said, hey, this is the person to go to. So with that, that's the first part of the Law of Legacy. I'm going to turn this over to Bess for some thoughts on the Law of Legacy, and we'll go on from there.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Good thought. Stretches my brain, you know. And I just want to say hi, if my own personal hi to Thomas, Jacqueline, Denise, Adrian, Monica, Kevin, Nancy, and Joyce. I'm glad you guys are here. So you know that in network marketing, you can actually leave your business to your family when you pass away. It's actually inheritable. It's a business that can be in your will. And network marketers have done this. And I know Mark Yarnell has, you know, when he left, his widow was well provided for in his family. Jimmy Smith, the fellow who, when he turned 40, he was a 40-year-old butcher, and he hurt his back and couldn't do network marketing anymore. And so he discovered the numbers. He's good at numbers. He liked numbers. So he discovered the numbers in network marketing. And he found that he thought that was just ingenious. So he tried a few companies. He did not have an easy start. He had a few failures at first, but eventually he made it. Eventually his family came in with him, and he and his daughters together, the last I heard, were worth over $30 million together. So, you know, he's already involved his family. They trained in the business. They worked with them together in the business, which can be very bonding or very challenging, both. But how unifying is that, and how wonderful to have those memories, because network marketers, their team becomes their family eventually, and to have that already be your family, and to have them be set for life, so that when you're ready to go, I forget his age now, but when he goes, you know, it's all set up for them. They're all taken care of. They're ready in gear. They're ready trained and all that. So and then another secondary benefit is your family, the team that you have brought in, your acquired business family, the team that you have brought in, that you have trained to be leaders, because you're not just thinking of, you know, doing it all for them, but they can stand on their own when the time comes and they need to, or as soon as they can from the beginning, actually. But think about this, you guys, just to expand your mind even further. Think about all the people that they will touch, and that they will touch, and that they will touch, maybe even years after we are gone, this generation, that this will keep going and going. And that's what I just adore, the exponential factor in network marketing. Creates the residual income, of course, but look at all the people that it can touch. You know, you start something, and like a tree, it starts dividing. The branches start dividing and dividing and dividing, both below ground in the roots and above ground in what it produces. So if you really train 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 good leaders, and they do the same, and they do the same, of course, it can touch millions of people just from your few years of effort. A friend of mine has 500,000 people in her team. Her team is just dividing and dividing and growing. Now, passing on the baton, like Jeff said, just a story about Coke from the 21 Laws book. The Coca-Cola CEO, Robert Goizetta, if I'm saying his name right, took Coca-Cola, which I don't happen to drink or recommend, but the principle of growth, he took it from 4 billion in 1981 to 150 billion in 1997. And when he died, the baton was smoothly, seamlessly passed on, because two things that he did. He made it as strong, his organization, his company, as strong as he possibly could. And number two, he prepared successors. So think of that. Think of also, you know, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? At your funeral, what would be one sentence that could summarize your life? How do you want to be remembered? Can you think of one sentence right now that you would want to summarize your life? And then do your actions align with that? And if you have questions, please type those in, or insights, or one idea that you're getting, one takeaway. We'd love to hear that. And welcome, Ashley. And back over to Jeff.
So guys, with the law of legacy, you know, one of the things that, you know, we hear a lot about is, you know, what income do you want to get to? What income do you want to get to? What size business do you want to have? Jeff Johnson's with us. So what size business do you want to have? Where do you want to end up? That's a great question to ask, but a greater question is what kind of income do you want to leave behind? What kind of size group do you want to leave to your family? And what I found is people will work harder for others than they actually do for themselves.
Yes.
And basically, wherever you get to, you create a lid for those that were on your team. And the lid is this is as far as you can go. Because if they know you, if you're the one who recruited them and you're the person who led them, as far as you go is this usually is as far as they believe. And you might point to other people and you might talk to other people, but it's actually what you do. The farther you grow, the farther they have the ability to grow, because as they see you break through glass ceilings, they'll be able to break through glass ceilings. And that's part of the point of what we're trying to teach. And we're trying to, you know, get people to actually understand is they have the ability to go farther. They have the ability to build a legacy that moves on from them. Leading others to the law of legacy, it says, if I train someone to do this, what happens if they replace me? That's the objective. That opens up time. That opens up the money to be able to go train someone else. So many times I've seen people, like, they try to govern what's going on locally rather than building into another market. And it's actually that letting go that helps you. It's actually the succession of having somebody else run things, so you have the ability to leave and go do something else. The second thing, I always get overlooked for promotions. You know, they say that, you know, there isn't anyone that, you know, I'm kind of stuck at where I'm at. Inside of direct sales, you don't see that so much. But in some cases, you know, well, I'm the one running the meeting and there's nobody else here who can actually do it. Well, why aren't you training somebody? You know, I'm on the lookout consistently for somebody who can replace me. I'm on the lookout for somebody else who can run a market. I'm on the lookout for somebody else who can do it. As John said, 80% as well as you can do it. Because if they can do it 80% as well as you can do it, that 20%, they have room to grow. So when you meet somebody and they have the ability to kind of do it, they might not have all of the fine tuning, but they have the ability to do it while you're not there and run it, and it doesn't collapse and it keeps going. That's the person that you can turn it over to for a time, and that's a person you can train. That's why John talks about equipping people, you know, equipping leaders and leaving that legacy. He also, in his book, if you want to learn a little bit about legacy and really where it's going, Intentional Living, this is one of his books. I want to say he came out with about 3 or 4 years ago. One of the best ones I've read. It's actually part of our Maxwell team group. If you became a speaker, trainer, coach, this is one of the trainings that he goes through, simply because he goes, I want people to understand and I want people to know how to leave a legacy, how to start working intentionally early. He's like, I wish I would have written this book earlier. He said, but most of the lessons I learned later. And that's really unfortunate. When it comes to leadership, a lot of the lessons you don't learn until years later. The book, The 21 Laws of Leadership, he's like, it took me 20 years to get it. And it took another almost 20 years to understand all the lessons well enough to be able to refine them and define them. Because it came out with the 10th year anniversary. When it came out with the 10th year anniversary, some of the names actually changed. And it was really the same principle, just the names were better. You know, like law number 13, the law of the picture. People do what people see. He's like, you know, it was previously in his books, that law was actually under a different name. But he said, you know, that was a necessary thing. You have to paint a picture. You have to show people a picture of what to do and how to do it as a leader. And that makes a lot of sense for what? For transferring your leadership to someone else. I meet so many people who are like, oh, I've got this and I want to give it away, or I've got that and I want to give it away so that way I can go do something else. Well, you have to be, and that's one of the things that I love about direct sales is you learn to become a recruiter. And if you learn to become a recruiter is nothing more than a talent scout. You have the ability to identify great people. They're great people everywhere, but do you have the skill set to pull them from one place over to another? Do you have the skill set to direct them from one place over to another and train them and equip them to actually run something that you work with? I consistently find talent out in the field and I draw all that talent to me. Why? Because I developed all the skills as a recruiter inside of direct sales. The reason I've been able to start multiple businesses and run multiple businesses isn't because I was smart in all those businesses. It was because I learned the principles inside of direct sales. If you can run a direct sales company, it's actually harder to do this than it is a traditional business. And the reason being is in a traditional business, you have leverage. You can fire people. Hey, this didn't work out. You know, if you have a problem with somebody, hey, this isn't working out. And you have that thing that you can hold over the top, which is I'm employing you. So therefore you have to listen to what our game plan is. You can't go off in your own direction. But inside of direct sales, it's a volunteer army. You're only attracting people, keeping people because of what? Because we all have a common theme, a common dream, that we all would like to move in a certain direction, but you can do it however you want to do it. I can't fire you. I can't kick you off the team unless you're physically doing something illegal. I can call corporate and be like, hey, this doesn't work out, but you can't move somebody like that. So the only way you can get somebody to do something is through leadership. People do business with people they know. People do business with people they like. People do business with people they trust. So learning those skills and learning these leadership skills, I can pull people from one thing to another. And I've done it many times. I actually sat down with another friend of mine. It was actually somebody I went to school with that's been in the medical field for years. And, you know, we sat and talked and she gave me her background and, you know, what she's doing. And it was really simple. I said, look, you know, here's where you're at. Let's look at where you're going to be in 5 years. Let's look at where you're going to be in 10 years. Is there anybody in your office that's 20 years older? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, do you want to be that person? She's like, no. I said, do you want to be the person who's been there 10 years longer or 5 years longer? She's like, no. I'm like, do they have the lifestyle you want? Do they have the friends? Do they have the time? Do they make the money? She's like, no, they don't have any of that stuff. And I said, well, chances are, if you stay in the position you are, you're replacing one of those three people in your office. She's like, oh my God, I never thought of that. I said, or worse, you're staying where you're at and you're not replacing any of them. And she's like, oh, that's even worse. Because all those three people had been there longer, they all make more money. I said, so the only way you're going to do this is you're going to basically get out of that situation. Here's a different path. And I was able to show her, hey, here's the money you make, you know, working in the industry that we've been working in. Here's basically what you could do. Does this look better or worse? And she's like, okay, I leave for my trip on Friday. I'll be gone till Tuesday. Can I start Wednesday? And that was a wrap. She's back on board, ready to go. But it's the ability to transfer those people and understand being able to. And what did I do? It was a simple presentation, you know, just like we present inside of MLM, just like we present inside of direct sales. It was a presentation for, you know, our holistic health company. The same thing that I do when I bring people onto the real estate team. Hey, here's where, you know, here's where the giants are. Here's where Keller Williams is at. And here's where Remax is at. And here's how, you know, Prudential works. And here's how Carpenter in our city, Carpenter's one of the big ones. Carpenter, here's how Tucker works. You know, here's how Wyckoff's another national real estate. Here's how they work. Here's their commission breakdown. Here's what goes on. But here's what you could do over here if you wanted to work with us. Is this what you're looking for? Is that what you're looking for? Again, it's a presentation. So I've been able to move people. In some cases, the people who work with us aren't the right people. And if they're not the right people, what I do is I say, hey, look, you sound like somebody who would fit in better over here. With us, you've got to be responsible and keep track and figure everything out. You seem like you need handheld. You seem like you want to sit around in an office and talk about office politics and blah, 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 blah. You would be better off at this other. I've sent at least 4 people to huge companies. I'm like, go get trained, go get beat up, go get into a situation where, like a friend of ours, go get into a situation where you pay a company $410,000 of your commission. Make it that painful, and then come back and talk to me about how things are going. I have a good friend. She paid $410,000 to a company over an 11-year period of time, and eventually she added it all up and was like, "What am I doing?" She had built the name for herself. She had the following, but she built someone else's database. She found out the company was actually switching her name on her website to the company, and all of her leads weren't going to her, they were going to other people in the office. So be careful building someone else's business instead of your own. I talk about that, in our class that we have on Sundays. Build your database, build your own business. So with that, guys, I'm going to turn this back over to Bess for some closing thoughts before we wrap this one up.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. Brand ourselves and build our tribe rather than build someone else's. I love those examples. Oh, how dramatic. And to wake up sooner than later about the difference of owning your own business, especially like network marketing. My takeaway today is to be a role model. And that could be my greatest legacy of all, even more than the money that I could leave my family or the people that I train in network marketing to help other people. Perhaps my greatest legacy is to live large and show people what can be done, and to be genuinely happy myself in the service of other people. I found is my greatest happiness. And I've tried a lot of different ways to live. The only place I'm really happy is helping other people like this and teaching, which is why I've become a generic network marketing coach. I was reading on a post on Facebook by Rob Sperry, and he said, how much would it take, how much would someone have to pay you to quit your network marketing business? And he said, now be honest, and I was reading through there and I thought, well, it'll be interesting. What will people say? 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, what will people say? Well, 95% of them said they would never quit, no matter what the price, because they're hooked with helping people. This is in their blood. They love it. Anyway, there's no ceiling to the income. So how could you put a price on something that has no ceiling? I mean, if you sell out for $10 million and you could have made, 500 million by the end of your life, you've sold out, you've lost. And one person did put $1 billion there. One person put 10 million. One person put $1 billion. And one person said, well, so much. And then I would go over to YouTube and keep helping people that way. But nearly all of them said they would not. There's no price that they would. So I thought that was interesting. They're in it. That shows me for not only the limitless ceiling, but also the good that they can do for people and the people that they love that have become their family that come on their teams. So to me, that is the legacy. And I love the legacy that you each could leave, you each will leave, whether it's a big one or not, of the role model that you are, the example that you are of how you can live life. I do love listening to some of the YouTubes that Jeff has sent over to me of past network marketing greats, like Bill Britt and Mark Yarnell and Dave Severn, people that just, their words are so high vision and so far reaching, what they've done and why they've done it and why they keep doing it, even though they don't need to anymore. They've made their fortune and all that, but they keep talking to people every day. These fellows describing. So it's in them. It's not a destination. I'm going to reach there and then I'm going to stop, because they love it. And studying these leadership laws has really broadened me. I really appreciate going over the 21. We've been through them twice now, but we're going to keep going because what John Maxwell said, it took him 20 years to really get what they meant, to get the laws, another 20 years maybe to get what they meant, and even to put it in writing and to keep learning from them. So I think that these are not, you just go through this class once and, okay, now I've mentally got the 21 laws. Now I'm set. Now I don't need it anymore. To me, I want to keep taking another layer of my onion off or going deeper. And I get that every time that we go through them. So this might be a lifelong endeavor of mine to keep improving that 1% every day. And in concluding this class, and we have these surprises coming up for you the next 2 days before we launch into the next set of 21 starting on Monday. But in concluding this class, we are conducting a little survey, and we'd love to ask you to type in, why are you watching this show? What are you trying to get out of it? And even another question, how can we meet your needs better? What can we do better to serve you? So while we're wrapping up this, I'd love, dearly love to hear from you and to know your needs that are being met or that could be met from this show. Jeff, anything else?
Guys, that's pretty much it. That's a wrap on, the 21 laws. Each law stands on its own. Each law has its own lesson. You don't necessarily need one of the other laws, but they do compound over time. So if you look at it, there's 21 different laws here. There's probably also 21 different reasonings why people would follow you. Think about this. There's 21 different reasons why people follow you. So if you only have a couple of these down, there's only a certain group of people who will actually follow you. The more you learn, the more you study this stuff, the more people will follow you, the more you'll understand how to lead people, the greater group that you'll attract. And here's the thing, if you're not specifically great at one of them, what you want to do is find people with like values and like character. They just have different personality types and different strengths. Bess and I have different personalities and different strengths, but our commonalities are we want people to win. Our commonalities are we want people to grow. Our commonalities are we want people to succeed. Our commonalities are we both believed in health. We both believed in wellness. So there were so many commonalities that we had with when it comes to character and when it came to where we want to go and what we want to build. It was just we had different personalities of laying the information out. So because we came together, we were able to attract a bigger group of people. And it's kind of been almost magical in a way to be able to influence. All of a sudden it was like we each had our own influence, but when two come together, it creates a third mind, and that third, that combination of two minds together, that third entity is able to attract much more. So in direct sales, you're always looking for that person or that group of people who come together. If you're growing and teaching them to grow, you can create that third mind that's able to draw in and bring a whole new level of success to your business. So Monica says every piece of information I glean is going to help me become a better leader and recruit more people and become a better distributor. So that's actually the purpose of this is not just to use it inside of your business, but I'd like to know, where do you want to leave things long-term? Where do you want to leave things long-term for your family, or where do you want to leave long-term for your team? Hey, I'm building this team so that way I can help this team do these things. It's really kind of great to look at, if I were able to walk away, if I were able to build this for 5 years and walk away, what would I be giving to that team? If you had a deadline on it, if you put a deadline on, this is when I'm giving my team away, think about how differently you'd work if the end basically kept coming closer and closer. Nobody knows the end of, themselves. Nobody knows when they're going to leave, Earth. So what I could say is, instead of kind of leaving that to a whim, why not start writing it out and building it now? And that's what John talks about in, the law of intentionality. The very first chapter, he's like, start out by being intentional from the beginning. And I'm just going to read you just part of the first chapter, some of the things. He said, what is your story? He's like, what is your story right now? Obviously, the story is of your past. He's like, get into your story. He's like, your story, not your history. Your story, not your history. What did you learn from the lessons? Not necessarily just what happened, but what did you get out of them? Start by writing a story of significance. Put yourself in the story. Put significance in your story. Why did you learn the lessons? What came out of it? Put your strengths in your story. This is what happened. This was my weakness. This is what made me strong. Stop trying and start doing. What are you actually physically doing? Not what are you trying to do? He goes on to say it'll bring others to your story because most people relate more to your defeats, more to things falling apart than they actually do to your successes. Hey, this is all the success I've had. Nobody wants to listen to that story. But when you listen to somebody, I went through this and made it. I went through this and made it. I went through this and then this taught me this. It'll increase your appetite for more significance as you do it. It'll outlive you. That's a kind of a nice thing. That's what we've been talking about. And what is your best story? So far, you know, starting out a new chapter of life, what are you going to do? So writing out your story and figuring that out, that's kind of the first chapter of this book. He gives many, many lessons of things that he's learned and what he's gotten out and the significance that he's left behind, building something up and being able to walk and move on. Adrian says, exposure, reminder, and practice of leadership skills is what attracted me to this. So far, it's helped me immensely. Thank you both. Absolutely. We actually appreciate everybody for being on and taking the time. Hopefully the lessons have done. And, you know, we try to include as many stories, and I try to include as many practical things that actually have happened and just lessons that I've learned and gotten out of it. You know, there are companies that I've actually left. And I was telling Bess this. There was a company I actually left, and I was able to log on through a friend who is still in that company. So this is a company I left 8 years ago. And it actually showed, this was a person who was above me, it still showed that there were 10 frontline active people and there were 1,015 in the team that was still active and growing. It showed the number to the side of how many people came on the business last year. And I said, isn't that funny? That's a business I left almost a decade ago, and it still keeps on rolling. You know, so you know, even if I tried to call everybody, I couldn't get them all out. So, you know, just prove this example. What if, you know, you could leave a legacy? What if you could find a company and a product and a team of people that you could build for a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades and be able to walk away? And instead of it being 1,000, what if it was 10,000? What if it was 100,000 people? You know, 99.9% of the people you don't know, you've never met, but all of those are contributing to an organization that you built in the beginning. I think it's awesome. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Bess for any closing thoughts, and we're going to wrap up.
Yeah, I want to say hi to Dalton. I think I caught everybody on here right now. So this is like a tree, right? If you plant a tree, initially it might take a little bit of tending to or watering or protecting it from predators, eating it when it's a little sprout or something like that. But after a while, it starts taking roots and growing off. And even if you move away or, you know, or can't tend to it, nature can take over from there. And it can water it and it can sun it. And, you know, it can... likely it will at some point grow on its own. And it's like, wow, what are you planting today to ensure tomorrow? Think team and think leaders rather than just individuals. Again, you know, that's where I came from, as my own individual selfish little self, and I had to start thinking bigger. Still am. I'm still trying to expand. How could I reach more people? How can we help more people? And how can we help them better to shortcut their learning curve in network marketing? And Vicki, I love your classes and lessons to help me get and stay focused and stay motivated and learn so I can improve myself and help others. Thank you both, a great team. Thank you. Okay, so helping you to focus, motivate, improve, and help other people. Thank you. And also, I'd be personally interested in what could we do better to meet your needs? Because that's what we're seeking, right? We're seeking to think bigger all the time. So help us. We need your help in that. Your feedback. What do you need bigger, better, would even move you along faster? Now I'm stretching you, right? Because it's making you think. But how could we help you to multiply your business beyond even what you thought? What part could we be in that? So we'd love to hear that now, or private message, or leave a comment later on. So, so Jeff, what's coming up the next couple of days? What kind of goodies are we gonna prepare?
Vicki says, I love your classes, lessons to help me get and stay focused, stay motivated, learn so you can improve yourself. And she just says, thank you to both. Absolutely. That's what it's all about. So tomorrow and Friday, what we're actually going to cover and go through is actually the 5 levels of leadership. The 5 levels of leadership is actually the foundation for understanding all of these lessons. He said there's 2 foundational books, the 21 Laws and also the 5 levels of leadership, to understand what, you know, the different levels you have to pass through to be able to influence more and more people. Each one of the lessons could be a week on its own, but we're just going to kind of run through the basics so that way you have an understanding of it. because understanding this stuff makes a big difference. Bess mentioned something about personality. So I thought rather than spending a day on it, what if we looked at the 21 laws as a total? And the next time we run through them, I'm actually going to run through them with all 4 personalities, you know, understanding kind of what their motivation would be behind it and how to look at, you know, maybe the other side, meaning another person who, you know, has a different personality, how they would view that law. I think that would be a good way to kind of view the 21 laws, what they're getting out of it. So with that, we're going to wrap up this one. I appreciate everybody for joining us. It was awesome to go through this the second time. As we learn it, you know, you start memorizing more and more of it, and you start applying more and more of it. It's not something you go over once. It's something you go over and over and over and over again to be able to get this. John says, you know, he still goes over and he wrote the lessons. So if he needs it more, I for sure need that help, and I'm sure you're needing to get something out of it too. So we appreciate everybody for being on. Thanks for being with us for round 2.